Spotlight is proudly sponsored by HEC Media.
Today on Spotlight, the 1904 World's Fair competition to showcase the first public example of powered flight. Plus, Washington University is harnessing the power of AI to solve complex climate problems. And then why this book may make you look at your backyard in a new way. But first, St. Louis's history with letterpress and a group trying to preserve the art form. It's Sunday and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
The light on the wet ink, the sound that the brayer makes when it's putting the ink on type, and then the impression that the paper makes onto that type leaves a tactile impression on the paper. I'm Marie Oberkirsch, Director of Central Print. The smell of the ink in the room when you open the door, you know that you're in a creative space. Once the ink is applied to the text, the paper's put face down, and you roll the impression cylinder across. And it doesn't look like much until you peel that paper up and reveal the transfer of ink to paper, and it's miraculous. You can set wood type boldly, just 4 letters, put some ink on, and make your statement. Or you can set a poem with an 8-point typeface that's pretty meticulously set. I remember growing up in the 70s and I'd open up a newspaper. I could smell the ink. That day of paper and ink seems to be fleeting, but a lot of the equipment and technology is still relevant today. So we acquire equipment that needs preservation and conservation, and then we make it accessible to printers and artisans who'd like to use it. You'll see in a lot of movie trailers and things type that's been distressed to look old, like maybe in an old Western film clip. And what you'll find here in the shop is how that type really is distressed. The scratches that are from a ring that somebody might have been wearing, or a crush mark if somebody stacked another font on top of it, or a crack in the wood. But I think even more fun to think about is the kerning process and the attention to detail that you can have when you're actually handling each type, character, and letter form. There are thin pieces of metal that you can put in between. Leading is something that you might use in your computer program, but here it's a literal piece of lead, and it comes in various thicknesses, and you can cut it to size. And even beyond that, there are coppers and brasses that are thinner, brasses being a little thicker than coppers, so you can get super fine. We do have the collection of the Lebanon Advertiser here that was all newspaper typesetting equipment, so large fonts for headlines. So if you want some bigger metal types, you can find them here. This is our St. Louis Type Foundry Washington hand press. It came from the Lebanon Advertiser, and when we received it, this block was on the press bed, talking about FDR's third term. So that was a fun reprint that we were able to make here. But just to show you the action of the press, we would hand ink, place the paper on top, and then turn this wooden cylinder. There are leather straps and rails, just like ice skates and oil. So it's a beautiful transition to lock that press bed into place. And then you pull the platen down. Big print area and fantastic pressure to make your print. 1860 is probably the oldest equipment that we have here in the shop, and all the way up through the 20s and 30s and 40s. One example that really comes to mind are all the foreign language newspapers that were printed here. We have examples from a Polish newspaper that was here in the neighborhood up in Old North St. Louis. We know that the mother and daughter were still publishing the paper in the basement in the late 60s, running an intertype and making sure that that publication made it out. We do love Old North St. Louis. Something too that we love is just as you look south to the Arch grounds, you can see where a lot of those type foundries and printing presses would have been back in the day before the Arch was built. We do feel that Central Print is grounded in St. Louis's history, and our location supports that as well. From the print shops that were right here in the neighborhood to the art grounds that we look down upon, all of the trains and riverboats would have brought materials and supplies, so St. Louis was really a big hub for getting type and letterpress equipment and print out to the world. Book arts is flourishing, so a lot of people are doing zines that are very contemporary in feel, but this equipment still works well for that. Wood type, metal type, cutting images out of linoleum block carvings and printing them to express yourself and create a zine that's all brand new content, often from equipment that's 120 years old. The tactile quality of it, the unique nature of each typeset letter, our eye recognizes that and appreciates it for what it is. It was handled by another person, artfully composed and printed. Letterpress is evocative because of the nostalgia that we feel for it, but there is something richer that's still modern and contemporary and very much about today. And I think it's the hand of the artist. You really see that in the printed page.
HEC Media, supporting and promoting the arts. Check out our features and shows on theater, dance, music, the visual arts, and more. Find this and all our award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
History Spotlight, brought to you by HEC Media and the Missouri Historical Society.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jody Sowell, president of the Missouri Historical Society in St. Louis, and this is History Spotlight. Fueled by the Wright brothers' inaugural flight, the 1904 World's Fair planners developed a competition to showcase the first public example of powered flight in America. Public historian Adam Kloppe tells us the results of this highly anticipated event.
For many visitors, going to the 1904 World's Fair was about seeing the newest technology from around the globe. From the wireless telegraph to electric lights to incubators for prematurely born infants, fairgoers were inundated with the kinds of technology that would change the world in the 20th century. It makes sense then that fair planners also wanted to showcase air travel at the World's Fair. The Wright brothers had just made their first flight a few months before the fair opened, and pilots from around the world were testing many different kinds of motor-powered airships and dirigibles. To show off the promise of these machines, the fair planners developed an aeronautic competition and invited pilots and inventors from around the globe to participate. To further entice the pilots, a grand prize of $100,000 was given to the pilot that could navigate the L-shaped course through the fairgrounds and land back in the same spot they took off from. It would be the first public example of powered flight in America, and fair planners promoted the competition heavily. Several pilots, including the Wright brothers, thought that the parameters of the competition made a successful run impossible, so they declined to attend. But some of the world's foremost pilots did decide to take on the challenge. This included the Brazilian inventor Alberto Santos Dumont, who was perhaps the most celebrated pilot in the world after he successfully piloted his inflated airship through Paris and circled the Eiffel Tower in 1901. For the fair, Santos Dumont promised to bring in his newest and most impressive airship. Many experts picked him to win the competition easily. Unfortunately though, fairgoers never got to see the famed pilot in action. On June 27th, part of Santos Dumont's airship was tampered with and destroyed as it sat in a special hangar that had been built on the fairgrounds. To this day, no one is sure what had happened. Some folks believe that one of the other competitors sabotaged his ship. The fair's own security force suspected that Santos Dumont may have sabotaged it himself once he believed that he would not be able to complete the course. He vigorously denied those charges. With Santos Dumont out of the running, the field now seemed wide open. However, the course did indeed prove too difficult, and no one was able to claim the $100,000 prize. For getting further through the course than anyone else, American Thomas Baldwin and his pilot Roy Nabenshoot were awarded $500.
Next week on History Spotlight, a toll booth operator turned local celebrity.
To learn more about the Missouri Historical Society, visit mohistory.org.
HEC Media. Recognized, celebrated, honored time and again for excellence in the industry. Mid-America Emmys, Tellys, Natoas, Auroras, and other awards. HEC Media has been bringing home the hardware for over a decade. Hundreds of nominations and wins, from regional to international levels. arts and education to author talks, magazine shows and documentaries, individual craft achievements to overall excellence, plus so much more. And although doing good work is its own reward, recognition, well, it's nice too. See what all the fuss is about. Find all of the award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
AI is quickly dominating the education and training space. We envision it to be a tool that is going to be needed by anyone who graduates and entering the workforce in the future.
William Yo is an associate professor of computer science and engineering at Washington University in St. Louis. He's also the director of the AI Access program, starting this year with 5 years of funding from the National Science Foundation.
Traditionally, AI has been studied mostly in the computer science area, but we are starting to realize that it is now moving into all types of research and all disciplines.
The NSF is investing $3 million in this AI Access program, which is the Artificial Intelligence Advancements and Convergence in Computational, Environmental, and Social Sciences program.
AI researchers will need to collaborate with social scientists and environmental scientists. The funding from this program is going to be entirely used to fund WashU PhD students.
AI Access will address climate-related problems. Yo says across the campus, PhD students and faculty will collaborate on projects investigating the environmental, policy, and social responses to climate change through emerging data-driven methods.
AI could provide methods for which we can understand the data that is collected better. It could inform what kinds of data is missing and needs to be collected. It's about using the data to improve lives or improve the environment. What we see is that this mechanism will enable researchers, let's say someone in engineering who wants to work with someone in earth and planetary sciences, who also want to work with someone in social work. Or you might have 3 PIs or 3 faculty who want to collaborate together. And then this funding opportunity now allows them to hire students to work in this interdisciplinary space.
And will train new investigators to address global challenges in this new way.
And create something new that might not have been possible before. So one of the example projects that AI Access would love to fund would be the recent project by Rajan Chakrabarty. Rajan Chakrabarty is in the Energy, Environmental, and Chemical Engineering department, and he's collaborating with WashU researchers in the School of Medicine to work together building this new breathalyzer device that can detect COVID-19 very short span of time. Done quite efficiently and effectively, and also more importantly, quite cheap, would then be able to be used in low-income populations so that tests are no longer just something that is out of reach for this group of people.
The program will emphasize the ethical dimensions of AI and data science.
And so far, historically, computer science researchers have been developing AI and machine learning techniques without much care for how it might be impacting society at large. And only in the past decade or so do we realize that the power of these AI tools, it has unintended consequences, and these consequences, many of them are bad. So how do we, I guess, as AI researchers, work with key stakeholders in truly understanding what exactly are the problems that they're interested to solve, that are important to solve, and work with them in collaboration to solve those problems.
To do good in the world.
If we train 100 students and one of them successfully makes the world a significantly better place, I think we would have succeeded, right? After they graduate, I anticipate some of them to potentially go into startups or to go into nonprofit organizations or to go into government roles. And basically, we are trying to train this new generation of PhD students who are more aware of the possibilities and the strengths of the AI algorithms that we develop.
Later on Spotlight, a nonprofit that focuses on helping women move up the rungs of success.
Author and essayist Margaret Renkl casts a poet's gaze on the landscape of the American South and its complicated, often contradictory culture. In her New York Times columns and her collections of essays, she reflects on family and the passage of time in the plant and animal world while drawing parallels to our own human experience. After reading Renkl's newest book, The Comfort of Crows, you may never see your backyard or your neighborhood park in quite the same way.
We can't go back and undo the Industrial Revolution, but we can notice what we're losing right before our very eyes.
The Comfort of Crows consists of 52 chapters divided by seasons. You might call it a literary devotional, one that can be savored over time in small lyrical bites.
When I was on book tour with my first book, Late Migrations, it's also an essay collection. It also includes artwork by my brother, Billy Renkl, the collage artist. And the book tour there was a lot of in and out. Like I would go out for 2 days and come back and go out. So it really went on and by the end of my travels, I was meeting people who had already read the book, and they were saying to me over and over again, I've started reading this very slowly. I don't want to hurry. It's helping me slow down. I'm trying to parcel out just one a night or two a night. And I remember thinking after about the millionth time that happened, that it would be really fun to write a book that was meant to be read that way. That if it was helping people slow down, if it was helping people settle and just be a little calmer and a little less anxious, who wouldn't want that?
Can you tell us about crows and why you like crows so much?
They are incredibly smart. They can outwit nearly all efforts to dissuade them from a crop or from any other place that we don't want them to be. But the thing about crows, and the reason I find them comforting, the whole reference, it's not a book about crows, but what it is a book about kinship, about the way we're connected to our wild neighbors and to each other. You see that more transparently with crows. In the world of nearby nature, they have the largest brain-to-body ratio of anything in the wild kingdom except for us and the great apes. They're incredibly clever. They have a sense of humor. They play. They engage in play behavior even as adults, when many higher order animals play as youngsters, but crows play as adults. I talk about several examples of crows sledding or windsurfing or playing tricks on one another. They hold a grudge. They conduct funerals. They live together in multi-generational families. All those things that we think of as human traits, crows also share. And it's very reassuring to be reminded that we belong to this world in some of the same ways.
There's a whole, system of life going on out there, and you're so good at identifying that and naming that in here.
I don't think the creatures in my yard or yours are out there naming each other, but they recognize one another. They know one another. They recognize individuals and, of course, whole species. The songbirds will always mob up. It's called a songbird mob. They'll mob up when there's an owl in the yard or a hawk in the yard. They cooperate. So I think they do know one another, and they do recognize really crucial facets of the other species' way of being in the world. But when you give something a name, it does become your neighbor, if not your friend.
To find out what she says is the biggest problem with American lawns and why you should not rake the leaves in your yard, watch the full interview at hecmedia.org.
They are the best-selling authors and all of your favorite genres. For in-depth, one-on-one interviews, go to hecmedia.org.
Hi, I'm Hugh Hayden, and welcome to my exhibition at the Lowmeyer Sculpture Park. I'm an artist primarily working in wood who uses my sculptures to explore the American dream and cultural assimilation. I'm really interested in deeply understanding the materiality of the world around us and the cultural histories that different materials have, as well as their physical properties, and how I can manipulate them, hopefully, to change not only your opinion about their ability as a material, but also conceptually, maybe I can challenge your preconceived notions of the world. With my works that use tree bark, I take familiar objects like a baseball hat or a purse, and I reclad their surfaces in tree bark. Conceptually, it's this attempt to sort of camouflage it in a sort of a new version of, say, real tree, and also that how we use these different objects to sort of blend into society and any socio-economic class. With the bristles in my work, they can take on a variety of meanings. For example, with a church pew or a school desk that features the bristles, they somewhat act as a sort of cleaning agent. This idea of being in a congregation at a church, that this idea of being cleansed by the Holy Spirit, as well as in an educational setting, being refined and polished to become this sort of new individual. Whereas with the football helmet, they take on more of a protective stance, almost like bristly, to keep the haters away. Another body of work in the exhibition is a melting pot series, which are based on cast iron skillets that I've remade with African masks cast into them. And essentially they're my exploration of the idea of the United States as a melting pot that is sort of built on these African origins. And if you think of all the ingredients as all the different people who've made up of America from different backgrounds, but sort of there is the actual pot, this thing that enabled it to happen, is built on African origins. And whether that metaphor is applied to just the general creation of America from an industrial standpoint, an economic standpoint, from entertainment, from music to food, to different parts of culture, it's sort of, for me, this big idea beyond just cooking in a more conceptual sense. The name of this exhibit is American Vernacular, and as I've mentioned, this sort of exploration of the American dream, it's another way of talking about my interest in exploring these different sort of objects that are inherent in life in America. I do work with a lot of different materials and mediums, as is seen here in this exhibition, whether wood, hair, fiber, even electronics. And all of these pieces, they're little parts, whether it's pieces of bark, pieces of hair, pieces of wheat, creating a system that brings them all together. I was trained as an architect and worked as an architect for 10 years. While all the pieces are individual and unique, they come together to collaborate and work together in one piece through an overall system of organization. And perhaps that's some way is connected to this idea of America, of all these individuals coming together to make one thing whole. I hope you're able to come out and visit my exhibition, American Vernacular, here at the Laumauer Sculpture Park, and hopefully you can reflect on what the American dream means to you.
For more St. Louis stories, subscribe to the HEC YouTube channel. Connect STL from HEC Media.
In the heart of St. Louis, surrounded by red brick buildings and warehouses, is an unexpected oasis. One where women are digging in the dirt to plant sustainable vegetable gardens outside and sitting in classrooms inside, learning about everything from construction to marketing to geospatial analysis. It's called Rung for Women.
Rung for Women is a nonprofit organization that really focuses on helping women either change careers or grow in their existing careers. Our entire goal is we want women to move up the rungs of the economic opportunity ladder and attain more wealth. Rung opened our doors in August of 2020. We had our first cohort in March of 2021, and in 1 year we have served almost 300 women.
In particular, Rung helps connect its members to careers where women are typically underrepresented, in industries that have significant growth potential but don't require a bachelor's degree.
We know that St. Louis is certainly growing a location for geospatial roles, growing in technology, growing in entrepreneurship. So we really focus on those areas of growth so that, again, we look down the road, those roles won't be obsolete or automated in the next 10 to 15 years. Like geospatial analysts, coders and technologists, or medical coders, construction trades, roles where, women are typically directed away from, those roles that are typically known as man's work. We really are working with women to expose them to these career pathways and to connect them directly to employers.
That geospatial learning comes through a computer-based course with Maryville University that offers a certificate in geospatial analysis.
It's a separate course developed for Rung, specifically for the skills that the 3 companies we partnered with said that they would need if they were to hire somebody from Rung. They will collect satellite imagery of different locations, and they have to analyze what's there and mark so that you can say, it's a road, it's a hospital, it's this type of building, it's this type of geology, and that's what they do with the data.
One of the first women to go through that program was Demisha White. Demisha left college after a year and had a good-paying job with Amazon, but felt stuck and wanted to do something else with her life. She just didn't know what.
When I came here, I was just open. I didn't even know, I knew that they had opportunities for career change, but I had no even idea what kind of career I wanted to change or what I wanted to go into. Here they introduced me to the geospatial industry. Eventually, after I finished the 6 months course, I enrolled in the ArcGIS program through Maryville University, where I completed a certification in 90 days, which got me the job right now that I'm in with Maxar. Right now I'm a 3D geospatial production technician. Basically, I look over 3D maps and I correct them. I'm looking for any errors or any issues. So I just surf over maps. It's very cool.
I am probably like most women, had never thought about it, had never been steered in that direction. We call it occupational segregation, those roles where, women just aren't talked about in geospatial. And so we are just really excited to be able to partner with organizations like Maryville University, who really helped us create the curriculum so that women could get trained quickly for those new opportunities in the geospatial industry.
We love Rung. We love what they stand for. We love what they do and the people that they serve. It's very much needed in this city to look for women in a stable environment who are trying to improve their economic conditions. So we're very much mission aligned with Rung.
I would definitely tell somebody this is the place to come. I wouldn't have never imagined my life would be how my life is right now. And this all has happened in over 365 days. I would say give yourself the time and put in the effort, you will be rewarded. You're going to have a great outcome. Your life is going to be better.
Next week, celebrate 314 Day by meeting the founders of the movement, plus appreciating everything that makes St. Louis so unique. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.